Hello, everyone. This is Crypto BitLaw, back with your blockchain legal brief. And today we're going to discuss a lawsuit that was filed against Coinbase, alleging that they engaged in the sale of unlicensed securities. But before we dive in, please, if you enjoy this content, hit that like button and also subscribe to our channel. We'd appreciate that. And with that said, let's jump right on in. Okay, so we'll begin here with this Cointelegraph article just to give a general overview of this case. The article states that a class action suit against Coinbase alleges unregulated securities sales. The plaintiffs in the case say that 79 tokens that Coinbase sells meet the definition of securities, but they were not warned of their risks. They say, three individuals who bought cryptocurrency through Coinbase filed a proposed class action March 11th in the Southern District of New York, alleging that Coinbase is operating as an unregistered securities exchange. The lawsuit lists 79 tokens that it claims are securities Coinbase is selling in violation of state and federal law, and the buyers were not warned of their risks involved in the purchases. The plaintiffs, Christopher Underwood, Louis Oberlander, and Henry Rodriguez, represented by Connecticut law firm Silver, Golub, and Tietel, filed the amended complaint naming Coinbase Global, Coinbase, and CEO Brian Armstrong as defendants. The 255-page document argues separately for each token in question that it qualifies as a security under the Howey test as an investment of money in a common enterprise with a reasonable expectation of profits to be derived from the efforts of others. In addition, the suit says Coinbase is the, quote, actual seller when an exchange takes place, crediting and debiting the parties involved in the transaction in its accounts rather than facilitating a direct exchange between those parties. Philip Moustakis, counsel at Seward and Kissel, said, quote, the case is not much of a surprise. After all, the SEC has signaled that it intends to pursue investigations or actions against crypto exchanges. Similar cases that arose after the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, began cracking down on initial coin offerings in 2018, Moustakis said. However, while the SEC has pursued cases against token issuers, such as its current dispute with Ripple, and market participants such as BlockFi, which offered a lending product based on digital assets, the SEC has not yet taken action against an exchange. Moustakis said the painstaking one-by-one examination of the tokens exemplifies the need for greater regulatory clarity. Quote, unless and until the SEC provides further guidance and a path to compliance for token issuers, crypto lending products, exchanges, and other market participants, the question of whether any particular crypto asset or transaction is a security will be litigated one at a time, he said. This is because, quote, while the tests to determine whether a token is a security are well established, the analysis depends on facts and circumstances, and different evaluators weigh certain factors more than others, so it can yield different outcomes depending on one's point of view, he said. All right, so before continuing on, I think we'll just give a brief overview of the Howey test, which is the established jurisprudential test to determine whether an investment contract is considered a security. And it is a four-part test, and we could see it right here. We'll review each of the four parts one at a time. So to determine whether or not something is a security, you need 1, an investment of money, 2, in a common enterprise, 3, with the expectation of profit, 4, to be derived from the effort or work of others. And so if a security contract or a token or investment in general meets all 4 of those parts of the test, if you apply each of the 4 parts of this test to that particular contract or token or what have you, and it checks off all 4 of those boxes, boom, you have a security. But the problem, as was alluded in the previous article, is that a lot of this is in the eye of the beholder. So it's subjective in the sense that certain judges, certain triers of fact would weigh these factors differently from judge to judge. So not everyone is going to see or apply this test in the same light. All right, so now that we have an overview and a foundation of the Howey test and what is a security and the jurisprudential legal test to determine whether or not something is a security, let's take a look at the docket in this case. As we could see, here the title is Underwood versus Coinbase Global Incorporated, and it's in the Southern District of New York. which is where most of the major financial related cases originate out of, because New York is the financial epicenter of the world. And as we could see, this was originally filed October 8th of 2021, so last year. I don't know where that article got the March filing from, but a review of the docket reveals that not much has happened in terms of litigation or discovery. They've just kind of been going back and forth, the plaintiff and the defendant, regarding just kind of basic motions with counsel, and there was something here for emergency relief. One thing that I really highlighted was this. It was on February 2nd of 2022. It was an order to assist the court in its preparation for oral argument this Friday, February 2nd, 2022. The court directs defendant by February 3rd at 3 p.m. to file a submission providing the following additional information and/or attaching the following materials. 1. Please provide any intervening versions of the Coinbase user agreement subsequent to the August 2017 version and prior to the December 2020 version. 2. Please identify which portions of each version of the user agreement define the term, quote, Coinbase services, as that term relates to the scope of the user agreement. So ordered. And so what we see here, I think one of the focal points that'll serve as the fulcrum of what this case is going to hinge on is going to be this user agreement. So clearly we could see that Coinbase had at least one version of this user agreement that was in place in August of 2017, and then it was updated around December of 2020. And so I think the terms and conditions laid therein within that user agreement are going to be a large turning point of what this case would ultimately hinge on. And the most recent developments in the case are, March 16th, there were summons issued. This is where they're getting the March 11th filing date in that article. Amended complaint was filed. So the plaintiffs actually went back and amended the complaint after it was filed, with the original filing taking place in October of 2021. So over here, let's turn to the actual complaint itself, and we will give an overview of the tokens under scrutiny that are being alleged to be unlicensed securities, and just kind of give a brief overview of this complaint, because as we can see here, I mean, this thing is voluminous. It's 262 pages. And so we're just going to review, I guess, just kind of give an overview of the table of contents, and we will take a look at each of the tokens that are considered unregistered and unlicensed securities. Okay, so as we can see here is a copy of the complaint. Here is the case number, the district, the forum that this court's in. It's the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, so it's a federal court based out of New York in the Southern District, where Manhattan and New York City are situated. The plaintiffs, Underwood, Oberlander, and Rodriguez, and they're trying to establish a class, and they're suing Coinbase Global, Coinbase Incorporated, and Brian Armstrong. So they have a demand for a jury trial. Here's the table of contents with an introduction. It lists the parties to the case next, and then it establishes a jurisdictional statement and why venue is proper in this particular forum. And then it gets to the substantive allegations. And then it discusses digital assets, Coinbase, and crypto securities, provides an overview of that. It provides an overview of the blockchain and the foundations of digital assets. And then it discussed crypto exchanges and Coinbase, crypto securities and centralization, and Coinbase's failure to register as a securities exchange or broker-dealer. And then it goes to the next section where it alleges that Coinbase lists and sells securities but is not registered as a securities exchange. And then it lists, I think it's something like 79 different tokens or assets or coins that are listed by Coinbase that are alleged to be securities, at least by these plaintiffs. And so we'll read them off one by one. All right. So first we have, these are in alphabetical order. 1inch, the 1inch token, Aave, ACH, ADA, which is Cardano, AGLD, Algo, Algorand, AMP, ANKR, ARPA, Atom, Auction, AXS, BAL, I guess it's the balancer token, BAND, BAT, the basic attention token, BNT, Bond, BTRST, CGLD, CLV, Comp, CRO, so that's the crypto.com token, CRV, Curve Finance, CTSI, CVC, DNT, Doge, so Dogecoin, DOT, which is Polkadot, ENJ, which I assume is Engine, EOS, Farm, FET, FIL, which is Filecoin, Fourth, GNT, GRT, which is the graph, GTC, ICP, which is Internet Computer, IOTX, Keep, KNC, Link, Chainlink, Loom, LRC, Loopring, Mana, I think that's Decentraland, Matic, which is, Lord, what did they change their name into? Polygon, MKR, MLN, NKN, NMR, NU, OGN, OMG, ORN, OXT, PLA, Poly, QNT, Quick, RARI, REN, REP, RLC, SHIB, Shiba Inu, SKL, SNX, Sol, so that's Solana, STORJ, Sushi Swap, TRB, Tribe, UMA, Uni, so it's Uniswap, XLM, that's Stellar Lumens, XRP, that's Ripple, which I believe is no longer actually listed on Coinbase, due in large part to the fact that Ripple Labs is facing the SEC lawsuit alleging that XRP is an unlicensed security. XTZ, I think that's Tezos, XYO, YFI, and ZRX. And after the long, voluminous explanation of each of these tokens and why the plaintiffs claim that each one is an unlicensed security, it moves to the next part. It states or it alleges that Coinbase offers and sells unregistered securities. And then it continues that Coinbase exchanges are Rule 3B through 16A systems and therefore are unregistered exchanges under the Exchange Act. Coinbase operates as an unregistered broker-dealer on the Coinbase exchanges. And then the allegations were class action allegations trying to assert themselves as a class and get class action status. And then their claims for relief, and then it goes through the causes of action. And it lists 15 causes of action, a prayer for relief, and a demand for a jury trial. So let's dig a little further down. Let's kind of see, oh, wow, that looked like Polkadot to me. Yep. Yep, I knew it. Polkadot. I've seen that graphic before. I mean, there's some pretty interesting stuff in here about, I guess, just each of the different tokens and why they claim that they are securities, which, I mean, it could be a fair point. I think 10th cause of action. I want to get back to the earlier causes of action. I think that, in particular, when you have, here's the first cause of action. Before we go on, I'll just make this point. I think that when you have, I believe it was the SEC came out and they stated clearly that Bitcoin is not a security. And then also that Ethereum is not a security, despite the fact that there was an ICO on Ethereum, and it could be considered a security. If those two tokens and digital assets are not securities, then I think you'd have a tough time trying to prove up that each of these things, each of these tokens are securities if you were just to analogize each of their use cases and each of their issuances and the tokenomics and the fundamentals. If you were to analogize this bag of tokens or digital assets to assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum that were already decided by the SEC to not be securities, if you were to analogize them by distinction or similarity, you'd have a tough part proving each one of these. But to the causes of action, the claims for relief, so we can see here the first one is an offer and sale of unregistered securities. Let's see what the next one is. Then we have control person liability for the violations of the Security Act. Then we have illegal contracts to pay transaction fees to an unregistered exchange. And then we have illegal contracts to pay transaction fees to an unregistered broker or dealer. Then it goes on to illegal contracts to purchase securities from an unregistered exchange. And then it moves to illegal contracts to purchase securities from an unregistered broker or dealer. And then we go to control person liabilities. These are all pretty standard. And then we go to offer or sale of unqualified securities. And then we go to sale of securities by unregistered broker-dealer. Control person liability. I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. It's a similar roadmap for a lot of these class action suits, especially in this space. What I foresee happening is ultimately this resolving itself with a settlement where Coinbase pays a fee to this firm and the plaintiffs, and ultimately the class and the lawyers that represent the plaintiffs make boatloads of money managing the class and administering the class and the settlement, and Coinbase doesn't admit liability or fault, and this thing ultimately goes away before it actually goes to trial. That's where I see this going. That seems pretty par for the course, but who knows? I mean, yeah, I suppose anything's possible, but that's ultimately what I foresee happening. But with that said, I think it's interesting that we have it's a lot of these exchanges and just projects. They're fighting on two different fronts, whether it be from the actual strong arm of the law, whether it's the SEC or different three-letter agencies from the government taking shots at them and then bringing them into court, or if it's individual plaintiffs through the means of civil litigation. So fighting on two fronts, and I think it ultimately underscores the need for clear legislation and codified statutes and laws that dictate clearly what are securities, how these exchanges can operate, and just a general framework of how to regulate digital assets in general. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. And if you did, please, again, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that. And thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.